I'm Brenda Siler, a contributing writer at the Washington Informer newspaper. This Labor Day weekend, August 27th through the 31st, marks the 21st DC Jazz Festival, which will take place at the DC Wharf in various locations throughout Washington, D.C. The Washington Informer is a proud partner on DC Jazz Festival. One of the most anticipated events is the DCJazzPrix International Band Competition. The winning band receives a cash prize, mentoring, and an opportunity to perform at the following year's DC Jazz Fest. Last year's competition winner, the Hiruy Tirfe Quartet, performs on one of the festival's wharf stages. I had a chance to talk with saxophonist and band leader Hiruy Tirfe about how he and his band came together and about their first album, 10,000 Hours. Here's my chat with Hiruy. So let's have a chit chat about you. When did you start playing? How did you start playing music? Was it in elementary school? Were you in some community music programs? Just talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, I was born in West Philadelphia. Philadelphia as a whole is a very musical city, as we both know, in all genres of music. So not just jazz, but in gospel and hip hop and classical music with the Philadelphia Orchestra. So being born in Philly and being raised 20 minutes west of the city in a town called Upper Darby, I was kind of just immersed in that from the jump. My mother bought a keyboard on my third birthday from Kmart. I didn't even treat it as a keyboard. I just kind of banged on it like a drum because, I didn't really know what I was doing, honestly. But the cool thing about that specific keyboard was it kind of had like playback songs on it, like your For Elise and other classical songs or what have you, and the keys will light up. And essentially, if you hit the right keys that lit up, you would play the song correctly on both your left and right hand. So I learned For Elise through that at 3, 4 years old. So I did that. And then fast forward in third grade, I picked up the violin, didn't stick with it for a minute. The violin teacher hated me as much as I hated her. But then a year later, after that in fourth grade, that's when I picked up the alto saxophone. And I noticed a significant change, not necessarily in terms of how I appreciated the music, but when I picked up the saxophone, community kind of came with that because, a lot of people in the neighborhood I would see that are also musicians and used to play in jazz bands and what have you. There were a lot of just cats that played the saxophone when I was growing up in the same area where I grew up. One of the most primary alto saxophonists today is someone that we all know, Emmanuel Wilkins, who's like the face of Blue Note Records. We grew up together.
Wow.
Right outside of Philadelphia. I'm older than him by like 2 years. So he's obviously started later than me. But in between the both of us is a gentleman by the name of Yusef Farha Ali, who was already getting mentorship sessions from Wynton Marsalis and a bunch of other people. So it was kind of like us three, in addition to like my man Eric Watley, who's now playing bass for John Legend. My man Josh Thomas, a great drummer who's now in LA doing production, what have you, for a lot of artists. So through picking up the saxophone, I was already immersed into like a big community of just either musicians that are doing it full time or musicians that are doing it as a hobby. And we would do jam sessions, and it was a big community experience. And that was the biggest thing that kind of appealed to me throughout the whole ordeal, especially in my beginning stages of picking up the saxophone. So I kept at it at elementary school, grew up in Upper Darby, which I said is right outside of Philadelphia. And I had a great elementary band director by the name of Brad Shaner, excuse me, may he rest in peace. And then I kept at it in middle school. And then when I was in middle school, I was taking it a little bit more seriously. I started going to Philadelphia on the weekends, take the train to Philly and started doing extracurricular programs such as the Kimmel Center Youth Jazz Ensemble, which was run by this great gentleman by the name of Mark Johnson. He was the GOAT. He was one of the greatest jazz educators I've ever been across. And the cool thing about the Kimmel Center was the Kimmel Center is kind of like Philly's version of Lincoln Center, if you will. Okay. And the education program would have I guess like a partnership with the box office. So essentially their jazz series that they would do throughout the year, us as the students would get free tickets to their shows. And then in the morning, because we would rehearse on Saturdays, in the morning, the people that we would see at night, like Jimmy Cobb when he was still with us, or Javon Jackson, Kurt Elling, they would do master classes with us in the morning. And then at night, we would go, see them backstage at their shows and check out their shows and stuff like that, and actually see the industry side of this music. So that was appealing to me. My first concert ever was Jimmy Cobb and Javon Jackson doing a tribute to Miles Davis' Kind of Blue album at the Kimmel Center at the Perlman
Wow.
Theater. So that was inspiring to me. So that just kept me going more and, kind of dig into this music a little bit more. Because mind you, my parents, uh, I'm born first generation. My parents, my mom is an immigrant from Asmara, Eritrea. My father is an immigrant. He was born in Gondar, Ethiopia, but he's still of the Eritrean descent. So I didn't necessarily have that Black American music happening in the house. It was obviously the music of Eritrea, Ethiopia, um, Addis Ababa, what else? Somalia and what have you. So it was through those programs I really got to experience this Black American music that I currently work in and still love to this day. And then through just the Philadelphia community as a whole, seeing a lot of people that has experiences by, oh, I used to work with McCoy Tyner, or I remember hanging with John Coltrane, or Benny Golson was like my best friend growing up, and da 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 da. I used to work with the Roots. I was in Ty Tribbett's band, and just so many connections in Philly that appealed to me at the time, just to keep on going. So I guess in short, without being too long winded, the community was really, especially in Philly, kept me appalled and kept me on my toes in terms of,
Good.
just hitting the shed as hard as I can and practicing as much as I can, because the opportunities was presenting itself. And the community was really there for each other, especially when it comes to the youth and our elders like Mike Boone, Tim Thompson, Craig MacGyver, what have you. So it was really the community that kept me going. So
And when did you get to the point of gigging with your own band, your own musicians? Because when you were performing last year at the DC Jazz Fest Jazz Prix, and we're going to talk a little more in detail about that. I could tell, I was in the audience for that. I could tell, okay, he's been around.
right.
That's what came. Tell me when you got to the point in your evolution that you wanted to put together your own band.
So I've kind of been doing that from a teenage age, if you will. I've been doing it since I was a teenager. More times than not, like if I was in school and there was like an assembly or, like an after school concert or something like that, and they wanted music to be happening while the audience loads in and, the front of the house loads in, I would more than likely be the person to be a band leader and put bands together and what have you, and just, provide some incidental music and whatnot, play some jazz standards, what have you, as people load in. I did a lot of that middle school, high school. I did a little bit of that at the Kimmel Center, leading bands and whatnot. Um, but then when it came to my collegiate years, you know, I've always knew that, I mean, I looked up to John Coltrane and Joshua Redman and what have you, and they were just not just great saxophone players, but just great leaders because they always just had a dope band behind them.
Yeah,
Whether Brian Blade, McCoy Tyner, Paul Chambers, what have you. It was just so amazing to see a saxophonist as a front guy. Because more times than not, we're always doing, if we're not doing frontman stuff, we're probably doing horn section stuff. You know what I'm saying? Being in those Chuck Brown, Earth, Wind, and Fire type situations where you're not necessarily the lead, but you're kind of supplying the vibes, for lack of better terms, to the music. So I was still doing a lot of that. But when I got to college, uh, definitely decided to get some cats together, write some music, and just kind of see how it works out. Obviously, when we're all in college, we all have our senior recitals, so we're gonna have to do that anyway. But
right.
I was kind of doing that way, 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 way before that anyway, as opposed to some people that was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm not used to this being in a leadership position." I was already doing that for a long time, even to this day. I'm a musical director for this artist, rapper in Philadelphia by the name of Chill Moody, and when he does shows together, he uses my band, and it's not just a Chill Moody show. It's like him and a bunch of other featured artists and whatnot. It's essentially like an artist showcase. So the artists send me their music. I rehearse the band. We make sure rehearsals together. I send the production writers to the venues, make sure everything on a production standpoint is top tier. And I was doing that when I was in college. I was doing that when I was
Right.
in high school. So I kind of already had those reps in. So going back to where you're talking about that DC competition, first and foremost, the band that I had with me, we're all that's the homies. Those are my family. That's my brothers. Uh, so kind of that whole thing that your relationship outside of the music kind of enriches the music
Yeah.
itself. And I'm still a true believer of that because, I live it every day. Uh, so yeah, just the community aspect of it all, kind of like what I was referring to earlier, uh, really just helps everything together. And me as a band leader, I let my guys do whatever they want to do on a musical tip and also on a professional type stuff. Because my drummer also plays for Randy Brecker, and he's also the musical director for All for One. And
Wow.
my keyboardist, we met doing the Patti LaBelle gig and whatnot. So sometimes he has to go take care of that. And, I'm not a dictator in a way saying, oh, no, 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 you guys are with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I get a show, like, I need y'all. Like, no, go do your gigs. You always have a home here with us. You know what I'm saying? So that's, I truly believe you can build a strong unit by just understanding, like, this is home. So.
Talk to me about the the Jazz Prix. When I interviewed, you're the second winning band that I've interviewed. I was very curious with when I went to the Jazz Prix performances 2 years ago. I said, wow, well, this is a great opportunity. They get some money, they get some mentoring, some coaching, some studio time, just a lot of different things. I want to know what the winners do with that.
Right.
So winning the DC Jazz Fest Jazz Prix, the group that won year before last, they told me it's felt to be a prestigious competition. Like jazz groups know about it. And so there's a lot of competition to be considered to be get down to one of the finalists of the performing bands. So talk about how you found out about it. And when you know you're going to be in this competition, how do you gear up for it? How do you work towards it?
Absolutely. So I essentially just found out through searching different like grants and sponsorship opportunities for my next record. So as you said earlier, when you win this competition, you do get a cash prize. So that was the first thing I saw. And then essentially I went on the DC Jazz Fest website and started reading all the guidelines and requirements for said competition. So did my research, submitted everything in which needed to be submitted the recordings and all the other extra things I need to submit. I think I had to submit not necessarily an essay, but essentially like a Q&A type of thing. Like, oh, if you win, what do you plan on doing with your earnings?
Right.
What have you? So if I remember correctly, I submitted, obviously 10,000 hours just came out. So I submitted essentially the masters of the album, a few of them, not all
Okay.
of them, but a few of them. And then answered all the questions in which they asked me to answer, gave my application fee or what have you. Didn't hear back for a couple months. And then all of a sudden in June, I was at Soundcheck to perform the Roots Picnic,
Yes.
which is a very great festival here in Philadelphia. I played the Roots Picnic with the Roots, which not a lot of people can say that. So shout out to God. Uh, we're in Soundcheck, and I'm waiting for Questlove and everybody to do their line check. I'm just on my email on my phone. All of a sudden, I see that I was selected as a finalist. I was like, "Oh snap!" The time is now. So I guess all that time between when I submitted the application and when I found out I was a finalist, they were just essentially just going through every single application because obviously, it's an international band competition. Yeah, people
Yes, it
submitting from
is.
Europe and Asia and what have you, and they're
Yes.
figuring out flights to get to DC and what have you. So I understood that. So we celebrate at the Roots Picnic. You know what I'm saying? I told my brothers in the Roots, they were all happy for me. I told some of the other guys, uh, we were essentially hired as extra musicians. Questlove wanted to do like this second line. It was like a New Orleans tribute type set.
Yes.
So he wanted to do a second line. Trombone Shorty was with us too, which was really, really cool. So we did a second line from the VIP section all the way to the top of the stage.
Woo!
Met the rest of the band on top of the stage, and then Black Thought came out, did his verses and whatnot. It was pretty cool. So from then, it was just, all right, well, listen, we're one of four. It's go time. You know what I'm saying? We only had like 12-minute set or something like that, which I mean, with my guys, we're used to playing 75 minutes straight.
I know. I
Straight.
know.
Like I said
I
earlier,
know.
I treat my sets like a DJ set, just transition after transition after transition with a few open soloists from like, open bass solo with Sandy and Luke and me and what have you. So how am I going to dwindle all that intensity down to 12 minutes? That was just the only challenge, you know? So of course we performed music from the album. We did 3 songs. I wanted to make sure everything was contrasting in terms of styles, just so we're
Right.
not, hitting it right from the gate. And it stays at 100 the entire set. I wanted to make sure everything flows, and that we have a song that's a ballad to make sure the audience and the room can breathe a little bit. We do the title track just to kind of promote the album at the same time when we're doing the final performance and whatnot. So just preparing for that, making sure all my guys are are ready. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that we're all ready to go down DC and just do what we do best. Because at the same time, even if the outcome of the festival, even if that didn't happen the way in which I wanted it to, at least I was still in the vicinity where I can find some future agents or booking people, and Willa Jenkins to essentially, hey, even if I didn't win this thing, I would love to come back at some point. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes,
I still view this as a networking type of
absolutely.
opportunity in addition to the finals thing. So, and there was some killing cats. I'm not gonna lie. Micah Thomas, piano player. I knew of Micah because I was talking about my man Emmanuel Wilkins earlier. So when Emmanuel moved to New York to go to Juilliard, he started using Micah Thomas on piano for his band. So
Wow.
I knew of Micah for a long time, and when I saw him at the thing, I was like, listen, man, you don't know me, but I know all the people that you work with. So, we connected through that way. My man Mike Pellet, he was on drums for one of the artists, I forgot who. And just all the musicians around. There's everybody at that festival for the jazz pre-finals competition, everybody could play. And everybody could play at a very, 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 very high level. So I was just happy to be in the room. So I thank God, and I thank the judges for naming me the winner, because now I'm able to work on my second album, pay all the musicians accordingly, get all the respective travel accommodations and room accommodations that I have to. In addition to when the record is done, all the PR and the marketing cost that
Yes.
will come to be, because that's just as important as the actual product itself. So yeah, I'm just very grateful and just ready to move forward.
Come out to see Hiruy Tirfe and to enjoy this year's DC Jazz Festival, August 27th through the 31st. The festival's website has all the information for you to get tickets. Again, the Washington Informer is a proud DC Jazz Festival partner.